Hello, it's Steve Newmaster here again, and we're not in the Arboretum this time. This time I'm in the heart of Guelph. And if you look around here, it doesn't seem like we're in the heart of Guelph, but we are. This is in Preservation Park. We went off of Gordon Street onto Lowe's, and it's kind of a big corner between the Edinburgh Extension and Gordon Street. You'll be able to go on Google and see Preservation Park. It's quite huge, and there's trails that go all over. Interesting thing, we were in here a few years ago with a second-year class looking around for different types of plants and animals, and we kept coming across species like Clintoria borealis, Trientellus borealis, Gallium boreal, all these boreal species. And then someone said to me, "What's that?" Let's take a look. This is all peat moss. Peat moss grows in large abundance in bogs, and this is a species of sphagnum. This starry head sphagnum here is Sphagnum gorgonzonii. And there's another species of sphagnum over here as well, Sphagnum capillifolium, and Sphagnum scrosum as well. These are all bog species. This was all once a bog. A bog's a type of wetland. Unlike a fen, a bog is isolated. There's no water in or out. It becomes very acidic, and there's several different reasons it becomes acidic. We won't talk about that right now, maybe later. In a fen, water flows through. It comes through either as a stream or it has some kind of exit where all this water can go out, so it doesn't acidify over time. This is kind of an old swampy bog. So at one time this was a bog, a boreal bog. The boreal forest is about 1,000 kilometers north. I wonder how it got here. 10,000 years ago, it was about 2 kilometers sitting here on top of this piece of land here in Guelph. This was the Wisconsin Glacier. And over a period of 10,000 years, the glacier began to melt. The first ecosystem to come in was kind of an Arctic tundra. So right behind the glacier, as the ice was melting down, we had Arctic species. And we could look around and see if we could still find some Arctic species. And actually, sometimes you can. They're often lichen species that are isolated in very cold or extreme areas of habitat, microhabitat. After the Arctic species were outcompeted by the next ecosystem, that was the boreal forest. And boreal bogs, fens, swamps started to establish. And they were replaced by deciduous forest region. And that's what we have here today. But in some areas where it was cold enough, where the environment was still a boreal type climate, we still have relics of boreal ecosystems. And that's what happened here in Preservation Park. Actually, where we're standing, we see that it's really swampy. This is the head of the Hanlon Creek watershed, and there's springs here, and cold water bubbles out of the ground and forms the beginning of the tributary streams that run into the Hanlon Creek watershed. This is a cold environment, it's a cold swamp, and there's still species that establish and dominate because they have the traits to adapt to live in these cold areas and outcompete deciduous forest species. A bog in the heart of Guelph. You should see if you can find it.
So this environment, which is an old remnant of a bog, it's kind of transitioning a bit into a fen, I guess. There's some water running through it, but it's certainly a boreal feel to it and a boreal fauna and flora. One of the things we notice around here in this area, very different from the Arboretum or the dairy bush, is a ton of organic matter just littering the surface in amongst the trees. So rotting logs that look to be very, very old, old decaying twigs and leaves and the rest that are just piling up. And we talked about why that doesn't happen in other environments. We talked about it in the dairy bush, for example, why it doesn't happen there, as to what processes are involved in breaking those down in a much faster time frame that appear not to be happening here. And so we'll let you think about why that might be and what kind of animal diversity may be present or absent, or other kinds of diversity may be here or not here, that differ between this area, which is still within Guelph, and the dairy bush or the Arboretum, which are not at all far from here, but differ in the amount of organic matter at the top.
It's interesting to think about diversity, and when you look at all this coarse woody debris, it supports a lot of diversity of life, all different types of organisms. And today we're out here collecting mosses and hepaticas, and just a rough estimate, trying to keep a tally in my mind, I think there's probably about 60 species here. When you think of a boreal forest, you don't think of there being many species as compared to a tropical forest. But maybe we need to rethink this, because when we go down into the soil and we start looking at microorganism diversity, especially including fungi and bacteria, and there's all this organic layer, there's a lot of habitat below ground. If we start looking at taxonomic units of diversity of fungi life below the ground, there's a lot of species here. There may be tens of thousands of species. That's how many taxonomic units we see when we're using molecular data to try and classify, without names, because these don't have names yet, the amount of diversity found below ground. If you go to the tropics and take a look, there's hardly any organic layer. It's broken down quickly, it's leached away, microorganisms break it down very fast. A lot of diversity up here. Maybe it's more diverse than tropical forest. You got to find that out.
Yeah, that's something that people are just starting to explore now that we have genome sequencing that's fast and cheap enough that we can take a whole sample of soil and find out how many things are in it, and it's turning out to be much more interesting than we thought in terms of number of species.